Welcome back to the CEO series. Today I am joined by Rich, Fitstop Whitfords in WA. Rich, thanks so much for jumping on board today.
No worries, Pete. Thanks for having me. Excited for have a little chat with you.
Mate, today we're going to jump into a couple of really interesting topics. Um, I've loved following your journey, and something that you talked to us about early on is viewing a business as an asset, something that you really wanted to invest in, and get I guess, a physical, emotional return from, but obviously also a financial return. Before we jump into how you built your Fitstop, do you want to give us a little snapshot of what a day in your life looks like, what your background is, and then dive into why Fitstop?
Yeah, perfect. So a little bit of background, sort of about me. Before jumping on board with Fitstop, I hadn't had any sort of experience, I guess, in the fitness industry. My background is largely sort of corporate world, mainly across like telecommunications and banking. I think through my career with that, I guess the common thread for me has always been sort of like leadership roles, but across many different facets, right? I've been in operations, sales, business development, a bit of strategy, performance coaching, right? I've had quite a wide breadth of kind of experience with leadership being that sort of common trend. So that's a little bit about my sort of background. I've always been very involved from a health and fitness perspective for my own. So I've played sport right throughout my career, gone to the gym, all of that. So it's been very important to me to maintain my own sort of physical health and fitness. And yeah, I guess for me, being in corporate world, I knew one day I would love to own like my own business of some description. Didn't exactly know what that was going to be. And then, yeah, something just clicked for me one day in terms of like my love and my passion for my health and fitness, my business background. And then, yeah, the world sort of like combined where it just sort of made sense. I got into group fitness probably about sort of 7, 8 years ago. And that was kind of what sort of piqued my interest in terms of, hey, maybe this is a line that I could sort of go down. And then, yeah, it wasn't until I sort of explored and understood a bit more about Fitstop that, yeah, like I said, the stars sort of aligned for me. So, yeah, that's where it all sort of stemmed from.
When you were starting to think about a fitness business, what were you looking to gain overall? What was the key objective for you and your family?
Yeah, look, I think quite a few different things. So first and foremost, what I loved about group fitness was the community aspect to it, and as I started to understand a bit more about Fitstop, obviously that's such a big power play of what Fitstop does, and I think for Lucy, my wife, and I think it was first of all like creating something. Bigger than ourselves within our own community. I think that was a real sort of passion for us both, is to provide a service where we could give back essentially to the community. So that was one. Then from our own sort of personal side was, yeah, definitely diving into running our own business, working for ourselves was a big play as well. As
Mm.
well, we knew that we were going to be starting a family soon as well. A big priority for Lucy was that she wouldn't work as we were sort of growing our family, because she wanted to be very much there for the kids. And having Fitstop as our business to add that extra income stream for us has been phenomenal, and has allowed us to do that as we're growing our family at the moment. So yeah, we've got a little 3-year-old, just Charlotte. So 3 last weekend, and then we had our second child about 7 weeks ago. So yeah, it's busy times at the moment, but good times.
No, it's amazing to hear, and we love these stories that it gets to be, the brand and the business gets to be used to a vehicle to really support a family, and allow you to have these options and opportunities that a lot don't. So super excited to jump into this next part. It doesn't just happen though. What does your week structure look like? You're working in your full time career, your corporate career. What does a week to week look like? How do you balance doing that, young family, and being involved in your gym? Because you're also not completely hands off. I know you love the community.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Look, I think, the biggest thing that I'd say about my weeks is I need to remain fluid,
Mhm.
predominantly because of, yeah, my job and my family and that sort of thing. So, my structure within the business, I've got a full-time manager on board,
Yep.
who their role is to obviously basically ensure that the gym runs day to day, focusing on the community, retention, the growth, all of that sort of thing. And my job is to really support them from a leadership perspective and also a strategic perspective, and just ensuring that the business is heading in the right direction and that they are fully supported to execute on that with the team as well. So, look, as a bit of a guide, I sort of aim for about sort of spending 8 to 10 hours on the business per week. My absolute one non-negotiable is meeting with my manager on every single Monday. So I do that within my lunch
Mhm.
break at work, actually, and that's purely to look at the performance of the gym, what's kind of happened last week, what are the goals, what are we focusing on this week, just to, I guess,
Yep.
maintain that accountability, and
Mhm.
ensuring the business is heading in the right direction, but also ensuring that the right support is there for her to execute on our strategy. So that's my absolute one non-negotiable. And then
I might
outside of that,
double click on that if that's
yeah.
okay. When you're doing that weekly meeting, what is the data that you're looking at, or how have you been able to support your manager and hold that manager accountable to driving the right success?
Yeah, so we've got a data sort of spreadsheet, I guess, which has all of our key metrics on it. The
Mhm.
goals that we set for them on a monthly and a weekly basis. I guess the beauty of numbers is that they don't lie, they're not emotional in any way, they are what they are. So it's, makes those conversations, very easy in terms of like where we're actually how we're performing. So
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, there's metrics for days within the business as well, and I think that's, one of the draw cards from me from a Fitstop perspective back in the day, very data driven, and that's been a big part of my sort of background as well. So I can drown myself in numbers, but I think it's the important part of that is keeping it simple at the same time, and
Mhm.
just really structured for the manager to, make it easy for them. They know exactly what their numbers are, they can track them. That's what they're shooting towards, and that's what we review on a weekly basis. So if we're crushing it, we get around each other and support it. If we're not, it's like, what's happening? What's going on? What can we
Mhm.
do differently to drive this moving forward?
And how are you personally engaging with the community?
Yeah, so I often say I'm a member in my own gym, a lot of
Good.
the time. So
Yep.
I'm 5 a.m. guy. I'm in there sort of 5, 6 times a week. That's my jam. So I get in there nice and early before my family's even woken up. That's my
Mhm.
opportunity to engage with the 5 a.m. club. I sort of stick around for the 6 a.m. session until that kicks off as well, just so I can be engaging with the members, through there. So, that for me is my connection to the business, as well as, anything that we do that's like sort of community driven. I'm a bit of a face behind that as well. So whether that be,
Cool.
run clubs or, park boot camps, beach workouts, all of those sorts of things. I'm very much sort of front and center for those things as well. So I think it's very important for our member base to, whilst I do treat it as an investment, I
Mhm.
think it's very critical that they kind of know who the owners are, right? So that they can connect
Yep.
to them. And we're a young family, just starting from scratch. That's sort of like our sort of core demographic as well. So, 80% of our member base is between that 30 to 45 age range, right? So, right in the sweet spot
Mhm.
of where we're at currently in our life as well. So, I think that connection piece is, yeah, pretty important.
I love that. Member in your own gym. I think that's really important because it makes you so relatable to
Yeah.
the current membership base. And then you also get to experience what's happening, how the culture is firsthand. But then you've got the ability to go and dial that in with the manager, listen to the members, put on a run club, maybe put on a bar tab at in the local pub
Yeah.
for a bit of a fun afternoon. What's your team structure look like outside of that? So you're setting up the strategy, focusing on back end of the business, running the financials, doing the month end, looking at the
Yeah.
reporting. Then that
Yeah.
drives down into your manager. Then how does that look, and how does your manager work with the rest of the team?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So manager, so full time, like I sort of mentioned before, her role is to operationally make sure that gym is humming along sort of beautifully. If I sort
Hmm.
of, yeah, if I'm getting involved in operations, something's not right. So that, I'm very, very conscious of that to make sure that that's set up kind of beautifully where I don't need to kind of worry about that. Obviously, then, focusing on, the growth of the business, the community is, up to the manager role is there as well. As I mentioned, I just kind of oversee, guide, help shape the strategy and move that forward.
Yeah.
Underneath the manager, we've got a head trainer. So, he's on board for sort of like 4 shifts a week. So he does basically does a lot of the support with the team as well. So there's under him, there's like 4 casual trainers.
Hmm.
So there's 6 of them in total there that kind of operate the gym for us. Head trainer's role is to obviously execute perfect session every single time, supporting the team do the same. He also leans in
Hmm.
and does a bit of the retention sort of work within the business there as well. So yeah, it's not just solely left up to the manager. So yeah, I've got a bit of a structure where that head coach is a bit of a supporting agent for the manager, and then the coaches and the casual trainers just come in and kind of do their shifts as well. Probably something else I'll mention as well, non-negotiable for us is monthly team meet as well. So getting the whole team in the room at the same time, which can be challenging at times, but we find
Hmm.
ways to make that work. I think it's super important that the team are aligned in terms of like what we're doing, where we're going, how we want to execute as well, just so that we're all sort of singing from the same hymn sheet moving forward.
For sure. When you're looking at the business monthly, and I guess with your ownership slash asset manager hat on, what are you diving into monthly? How are you reviewing some of that data, or numbers, P&L, cash flow, those kind of things? And then is that supporting some of your decision making back into the manager of the business?
Yeah, so I think that there's probably like twofold that I look at the end of the month. It's kind of like our operational metrics and kind of how we're sort of functioning as a business. We're getting the right number of sales through the door. We're getting,
Hmm.
we're managing retention, those sorts of things. So that's kind of what, yeah, definitely what I look at with the manager, in terms of
Yeah.
like how we're sort of performing.
Hmm.
Taking more of a sort of investor sort of lens, I guess some of the key metrics that I look at there is, well, definitely net profit after tax. So how much money am I actually like sort of taking home from the business? But probably the other big one is the EBITDA sort of metric. So which is the reason that I look at that one so often is, that's ultimately what gives me leverage with the business moving forward. So,
Hmm.
it gives me a bit of an understanding of how much is the business actually kind of worth at the moment. Depending on which direction I wanted to take the business, is it down like the sale route? Is it,
Yeah.
investing, like looking to get more lending to invest in another location, those sorts of things. That's ultimately the true metric that'll let me know, yeah, how much my business is actually worth.
Now, I think so important and vital. Sometimes we can get too much in the detail of either one of them, but making sure that you can feed both in to be driving a strong business operationally that's then also giving you that return on investment, but driving back into your why around that business funding your family so that you can have choices with who's working, who's not working, how many kids maybe you're going to have, what lifestyle you want to be able to really take advantage of, I think is super important. And it's very clear that you've got incredible leadership skills and you're able to really rally the team around what you and your family are trying to achieve, but also you're living and breathing it every day. And yeah, I think as a package, all of that's so important to drive that success, because if it's coming off inauthentic, especially in the fitness industry, it can bring and present its own challenges. And that's what we love. We love business owners like yourself that just live and breathe the product. They don't have to be the best coach. They don't even have to have managed a gym before, but if they've been a member or they love group fitness or they love high rocks, and they want to live and breathe it with their community and be a member of their own gym, but then also bring that experience and financial acumen around how they can help support driving a manager to see success. It really is that perfect combination. Let's dive into a little bit more around kind of key leadership. How have you found going from corporate to then stepping into your own business in the fitness industry, leading a team, being around coaches, part-time coaches, rallying them, but then driving, up and coming managers? anything you can share around how you've had to maybe shift some of your own principles or things that you've learnt in the past that really work?
Yeah. Really great question. Look, I think that the fundamentals of leadership, largely remain the same and are super transferable, right? So, you ultimately, if you've been in leadership for a long time, you build the skills, you kind of know, how to sort of manage people to get the best out of them to, drive whatever it is, that you're looking to moving forward. I think what difference or what is a little bit different is the nuances, I would say, from a corporate environment to a gym environment. So, that's probably been the sort of the biggest challenge for me, and it's probably a lot. I've had to dial back on. I guess my professionalism, let's just call it that, that I would take in a corporate environment versus a gym environment. So you just need to
Mhm.
be a little bit more fluid and a little bit more flexible, I would say, in the way that you sort of operate and deal with people. And, particularly that this is the first time I've actually ever sort of dealt with and managed casual sort of people. So, which is a different world in itself, right? And, some of these trainers have, three or four different jobs, right, going on. So, we might not be their biggest priority, or they might be doing full time study, or they've got a full time job as well, and they're doing a little bit of casual coaching on the side. So I think just being able to kind of like manage that and also, ultimately realize that as well is that's probably been the biggest difference, for me in terms of managing a casual sort of coaching environment. But look, I think outside of that, I think with the full time manager, obviously when you've got a full time employee, that's their role to actually like drive the business forward. I think
Yeah.
just making sure that I take all of my leadership fundamentals from corporate world, just making sure they feel fully supported, that you create really good clarity for them in terms of what you expect of them, what the expectations are of the business, of their role, things like that. And then just ensuring that there's the right level of accountability and support behind that. That they're the things that I sort of focus on from a day to day, from a leadership perspective.
What's one thing you wish someone told you that would have helped fast track some of that learning and transferred knowledge in those early days?
Um, Oh, geez, that's a good question. Look, yeah, like I probably just leaning back into the casual sort of workforce environment. It's a different beast
Mhm.
from a full time sort of element, and I probably came in headstrong in terms of like this was because they work for me. That's they've that's it. That's what they do. They're fully behind it. That's what they're going to drive. But ultimately, you're dealing with some people that may come in and it's just like they're just racking up hours for a few extra dollars. So, the key is to try and find their why and get them more invested in what you're
Mm.
actually doing. And I think I probably came in with some assumptions that would just happen, but it absolutely doesn't. So you definitely need to work on it so that it's not just them turning up for a shift. It's like, yeah, creating a bit more of the why for them so that they really lean into the community and give it 100% every time.
Good advice, eh? What's one metric you think every business owner should obsess over?
Um, Look, that's a tough question. A lot of metrics. I would go like from an operational standpoint, I think it's net member movement, right? That's ultimately
Mhm.
going to be the thing that determines all of those other sort of fancy investor metrics, right? Is the business actually heading in the right direction? Are we growing as a business?
Yep.
So yeah, that net member movement is the one. You can bring as many sales through the door as you like, but if you're not converting them into full paying members, it doesn't really mean much. So yeah, net member movement on your full paying members is the one that I would go for. And if I could put a second one in there, it would be like yield as well. So
Mhm.
individual member yield. That's
Yep.
probably something that I've obsessed over since I started up Fitstop Whitfords is like being really ruthless on price points.
Mhm.
Truly like valuing first of all the brand and basically what the brand actually delivers, but then kind of how we execute that in studio as well. Yeah, if you've got trust and faith in behind all of that, then price points are a no brainer for me. So yeah, that's definitely one that I've obsessed over.
Nice. Um, what do you think the biggest mistake a new investor stepping into the Fitstop model could make?
Look, I think early doors, I think you're kidding yourself if you're not prepared for a bit of hard work. I would
Hmm.
say that as an investor, I've probably, for the first couple of years, leaned in, probably harder, maybe than I needed to, but, maybe not as well. Maybe I did need to lean in that hard. But that just
Yeah.
purely came from my ruthlessness and my desire for the business to succeed and create something like truly special. So, you probably could dial back a little bit than what I did in those first couple of years. But yeah, look, I think as you start any business that you start off, there's that element of where you need to really lean in and do some hard yards. I'm in a position now where I'm focusing more on how do I get this business humming where I'm actually not required? Like that's ultimately
Mhm.
my goal at the moment. And I feel like I've put in enough hard yards early to be in a position to do that now. But yeah, my advice would be don't invest thinking that you're not going to need to that it'll kind of like run itself. I think
Yeah.
you could probably do it, but it might not be as successful as you want it to be.
Yeah, I think in those early days, you want to obsess over it, especially if you've created some element of success in your life, whether that's been through sport or fitness or career. I think if you always go back to the starting foundation of any of that transition into success, it's come from hard work. So I think knowing all elements of the business, even if you're not the operating manager, it's still really understanding the systems, the member experience, living and breathing it every single day. Yeah, sweeping the sheds. Yeah, that's vital to driving success because then no matter what happens in the business, you can step into it and support it to continue to grow. Whether that's been onboarding the new manager or speaking to a member about their experience, you're going to be able to speak from that first hand piece versus sometimes just relying on the talent you're bringing into the business to go and execute. And you've done that exceptionally well. Hey, what's your proudest moment?
Oh, proudest moment. There's been a lot. Like, sometimes I guess taking the business from where we were to where it is now, even though like actually probably one of the early proud moments was our open. So we
Mhm.
opened very strongly, sort of back in the day. I think we had 180 kind of members that we opened with. So we opened like really strong, and I was
Yes.
very, very proud of that. That was like, pretty high sort of back in the day in terms of where other opens were happening, and we worked bloody
Yeah.
hard for that. Don't get me wrong. So that
Uh-huh.
was definitely a proud moment. But I think where I've now got the business to, in terms of it ultimately being able to kind of run itself with like, I'd say minimal touch point from myself. I can quite happily, we're looking at planning a little family vacation at the moment, right? Like I can do that and I've got full confidence that I can step away from the business and I know that it's gonna like run itself, which is a really good thing to know. So that's a proud moment. But actually, like I think some of the proudest moments come from when I'm actually in the gym and I stop mid-session. I'm working out as a member of my own gym, and I just full session. I like stop, pause, look around, bit of moment for myself, and I just think, yeah, holy shit, this is awesome, man! Like what we're doing here, what we've created, and how we're actually, just helping people like better their lives. And I think that's probably the big thing, like from an investor standpoint, yes, I'm very much looking at my business as a business and things like that, but I also don't lose sight of actually what we're doing, for the community and individuals as well. And, hearing those stories from our member base in terms of where they were, where they are now, and the journey that they've been on as well. I mean, that's ultimately why we do what we do, which is pretty special.
Rich, I've loved this conversation and have loved being a small part of your journey over the last couple of years. I think what you've been able to not only bring to Fitstop Whitfords and your team, your leadership, but what you've also been able to bring to us as a network, how you've represented WA, and really always been very considerate of how we're growing as a brand, holding high standards. Mate, really proud to have you a part of this network and excited to consistently watch you grow and tick off these life goals. So thanks so much for your time today, mate.
Awesome, mate. Cheers, mate.